it on? Oh, use this electric cut? There you go.
I
think it's, is it on? Yeah, it's on. Thank you.
God, Hank wanted to do that.
I don't know. I spend some of my time traveling the globe, teaching surgeons how to be better care providers for their patients. And over the years, I've had the opportunity to educate caregivers as well on the things that I educate patients about. And one of the things that's really important to me is getting our patients to understand how to reframe their lives after a diagnosis. And what I've learned through this process is we as caregivers aren't always the best at learning how to care for ourselves. So I call this talk From Surviving to Thriving, which came about because of the gifts that my patients have given me. So you might recognize Dr. Kumar and Dr. Coletta, and that's my son Dean in the back with a little breast cancer ribbon, and Craig Bunting. And this is from my trip to Haiti. And as Tony Coletta will tell you, Haiti always gives more to us than we give to Haiti. And what it gave to me was this fabulous saying. Anyone speak Creole? Okay, I'll translate. Our health is our greatest of wealth. The very first time I went there and I saw that fixing an incarcerated hernia in a young gentleman was life-saving, where someone could go to the ER because we've got EMTALA. Hank's going to admit that person, we're going to get that hernia fixed, and that person is going to be surviving and thriving. In Haiti, something as simple as a hernia can lead to your death because you don't have money to pay for health care. So it really gave me an interesting perspective. But what I also realize is it's not just our physical health, it's also our emotional and spiritual health. And for many of us, in healthcare and Western medicine, we focus on the physical body and fixing the physical ailment. So today I'm going to talk to you about all aspects. And everybody in this room is the greatest resource to Holy Redeemer, because without the leadership, people look to us as care providers, and if we're not great role models for how we care for ourselves, how do we tell them to care for themselves, and how do we then get them to care for their employees and their patients? So I think adversity is our greatest opportunity to grow spiritually. We all experience it very differently, and in this next half hour, you're going to hear about the people who've impacted my life tremendously. Impact number one, my older brother, Bart. Some of you know my story and some of you don't. When I was 17 and a senior in high school, carefree, no worries in the world, playing volleyball, applying to college, my brother was 10 years older than me, and I was the little brother he never had, which is why I'm a little tomboyish. And he always wanted me to learn how to fly because his passion was flying. So when I was 16 and I could get my pilot's license, he was a little disturbed that I didn't want to learn to fly because I could fly for free. He was going to teach me. My dad had a plane. So September 30th, 1978, finished dinner at my parents' house. It was my sister's 21st birthday. Said goodbye to my brother, just like any other day. And he was killed by a drunk driver driving home. It wasn't the adversity of cancer that gave me this gift. It was the adversity of learning how precious every moment in life is. And for all of us, I know the holidays are really tough. Every single one of us in this room feels it. Whether it's cancer, chronic illness, diabetes. My mom has dementia, and the gift that I see in the dementia, she doesn't remember that she lost a son. Anxiety, depression, addiction. This is our life in healthcare. And so what we need to do is when illness presents itself, we've got to recognize that it's a loss of wellness, and how do we get back to well? I mean, this is Carl's job. His job is population health management. It's not supposed to be disease treatment. How do we manage our wellness? How do we get wellness to become part of every day? And it's not just the physical wellness, it's our emotional wellness as well, and our spiritual wellness. I mean, Sister Anne Marie has the corner market on spirituality. We've decided that you are like such a great spiritual gift to us, because my nice little Jewish friend in the back and I both, we think the Catholic Church has its greatest gift, and having a spiritual leader like you who truly walks the talk and gives us that sense of spirituality every day. Illness produces fear because we don't know what's coming. We don't know what's coming down the pike, and it paralyzes people. And we in this room are typically that connection between the fear and moving forward, because we have knowledge. We have the knowledge of how we can help our patients, But sometimes we use that knowledge to help our patients, but we don't use that knowledge to take care of ourselves. So this is my acronym for fear that I stole out of A Course in Miracles. Fear is false evidence appearing real. It's when something grips you and your mind starts going through all those things that flow through your head, and you create the worst scenario. Well, what we really need to do is learn how to release that fear and move on. Every patient that sits in my office looks at me and says, am I going to die? Unfortunately, we all are. If anybody figures this out, please send me an email. Let me know what we can do to avoid the inevitable, but we're all going to die someday. And if I knew that I was going to die in a week, I love you all very much, but I would be home with my family right now. I wouldn't be here talking to you. And none of us are guaranteed that knowing how long we're going to be here. So this beautiful girl on the horse, her name is Sydney. Her nickname is Babe. That's because her older brother couldn't pronounce Sydney, and he kept calling her his Babe. So that was her name. The guy in the bottom hand corner is Joseph. So I treat cancer 24/7. Babe's mom, my best friend from kindergarten, when we were 38 years old, called me and she said, I have a lump in my breast and a lymph node that I feel. And I had my mammogram and everything's okay. Now, she lives in Jackson, Wyoming, and she was 38, so I knew her breasts were dense, and I go, you need an ultrasound. She said, well, the doctor said I'm okay because I have no family history. Fast forward, biopsy, invasive cancer, stage 3C. I said, don't go on the internet, don't look it up. 8 lymph nodes replaced with tumor. My very best friend, and I thought that because she's my best friend, I could teach her what I knew about healing and get her to a place of safety. And she said, I want surgery, chemo, and radiation. Keep your healing. I don't care about that spiritual stuff. Like, I need medicine. So I treated her cancer, but along the way, over the years, and it's now 18 years later, Lee-Ellen changed so many things in her life. She quit her stressful job at American Airlines because she liked it because she could fly back and forth to the East Coast. She got a job working in, not that it's less stressful, she does billing for the hospital in Jackson, Wyoming, but she can work from home. She was the rodeo mom for her kids. She was there for all those moments. And June of 2013, Lee-Ellen called me. Her daughter was killed driving home from school in a really freaky kind of accident. And what she said to me when I went out for the funeral, she said, you know, the day I was diagnosed with cancer, you said to me, this isn't the worst thing that can happen in your life. But sometimes that journey of cancer prepares us for other things that come along the way. 6 months later, undiagnosed depression, my girlfriend's son decides to take his life. And you look at these things and you go, so what do you do with that information? What do you do with your life? You kind of do a reset and you go, what matters? What really matters in my day? So I do have this crystal ball, by the way, in my office that's not showing up. And when my patients say, am I going to die, I pull out the crystal ball and I go, cancer is a journey. There's a lesson that you learn from this. I can't make promises that I can't keep, but what can I tell you is that every day's a gift. And if you learn to be present in the present, be present in the moment, everything changes, your perspective. So, the gifted illness of any kind of illness. Patients feng shui their life, and I will tell you, if you don't have clutter in your life, I think you're lying to me, because I had so much clutter in my life that I had to get a dumpster. I actually had 2 of them, because my husband hoards things. I love him to pieces, but he thinks he's going to reuse things again and again. When you begin to clear the clutter from your life, you create space for welcoming in things that really, really matter. And I didn't think that it mattered that much, but when I did clear the clutter out of my drawers, like, I didn't need t-shirts from high school. My God, I'm never going to wear them again, you know? They don't fit me. The jeans that I haven't worn in a year, they're off the shelf because I look at them and they just make me realize, like, I need to fit in them, and it just made me feel bad. So clearing that clutter helps you to create new space in your life. We also have people in our lives that don't serve us. People that suck the life out of you at times, and sometimes we hold on to them. Sometimes it's marriages. I see it all the time with the diagnosis of cancer. And it's really hard because for my patients, right when they need someone there, they realize they don't have anybody with them. And we've got to get balanced. We've got chaos all the time. And We can't always control what happens to us. We can't control what happens in the OR. We can't control what happens in the ER when someone comes in. But the only thing that we really truly have control over is how we deal with those stresses. And we need to have ways to be able to do that. We need to have ways to take care of ourselves, because it's our reaction to the stress. And if we let the stress beat us down, it's going to show physically. And illness also reminds us to live in the moment, because this is the gift. So years ago, you may find this hard to believe, when I was a general surgeon, I would be in the OR, and my office is calling because I'm late, because I'm doing the perf colon that came in that wasn't on my schedule, and I've got office hours, and I'm late. And then the ER is calling with an appy because, you know, Hank, he just is relentless, and I don't care. The patient's sitting down here. I got to meet my metrics. Karen's going to tell me the patient was in the ER too long. You got to come see him. So there I would be in the OR, and my nurses were the greatest gift to me, because they shook me and they said, stop right now, sit in that corner. They put me in timeout and they said, you're one person, you can take care of one patient at a time, and if you're distracted while you're in this operating room, you're not doing that patient any good, you're not doing us any good. And so I realized at that point, like, my God, these women know what they're talking about, because you really can't be truly present if you're someplace else. Some of you might know Chris O'Donnell. She's an orthopedic surgeon who was one of my very dear friends. And when I was on my spiritual journey, kind of waking up and figuring out that I needed to find balance in my life, Chris used to call us the witches, because we were learning different forms of healing and working together as colleagues, and she loved us anyway. Chris had her truck driver mouth way worse than mine. In the operating room, she had a reputation for being pretty tough, but she was a skinny, tiny little thing, and she needed to move bones around. When Chris was 42, she was skiing and had a foot drop. She called me when she got back from the ski trip, and that morning, there was a show on the Today Show about ALS, and these sisters helping their sister through the diagnosis of ALS. Well, Chris ended up being diagnosed with ALS, and she calls and says, I need the Cliff Notes to spirituality, because I've been going to church, I've been going through the motions, I need to figure this out because I have a disease that I don't know how to cure. So as girlfriends, we surrounded her. This is our pink pajama party, because we were told that we needed to celebrate life and be there for her and give her those moments of joy. And so Chris's greatest gift to me was recognizing that it's not just about the surgery that I do in the operating room. It's about the journey that I'm with on my patients, on their journey to healing. So this is what our patients teach us about surviving and thriving in life. So I consider my patients survivors, and when we do our NAPBC accreditation and our COC accreditation, we look at survivorship and we look at the data and the numbers, but this isn't about the data and the numbers, because patients are survivors when their treatment's done. They've done everything they're supposed to do, they follow up with their doctors, and the so-called cancer experience is behind them. But here's the hard part. If a patient sits in their kitchen with their lights off, waiting for their cancer to come back, have we done everything that we can do as healthcare professionals? We may have cured the cancer, like the physical cancer, but if that person sits in darkness without a sense of hope, we haven't done our job. So I have these appointments in my office, and they're called the Cliff appointments. Very hard to explain to office managers why this person who doesn't need more surgery, doesn't need more chemo or radiation, gets a half-an-hour spot. And I said, I hope to God you never understand why this appointment's important, because the only way you really get it is if you're sitting in that appointment. And the Cliff is the 2 weeks after treatment's done, because when patients are in treatment, they're focused. I'm getting surgery, I'm getting my radiation, I'm getting my chemo, I'm doing my stuff. And the reason I bring them back to the office is because suddenly there's someone sitting in front of me who doesn't know where to go. They don't know where to turn. So, this is the Cliff. When I made up this talk, I could only find a foggy picture, and I was really kind of torqued because I wanted a nice picture. And then I said, oh my God, God has a plan, like, because you are in the fog. You're in the fog on the edge of that cliff, not knowing where to go. So there's two choices: hanging on for dear life or going for the gusto. And I realized that when patients are on that cliff, if they don't have guidance, they may not be able to go for the gusto. They may just hang on for dear life. And that's not really a way to be. So this is where survivors become thrivers, and this is where we as healthcare professionals need to not just survive our daily lives to get to Friday, to get home, to turn off our iPads and to turn off our phones and to disconnect. Pam is a nurse that I met on a medical mission to the Dominican many years ago, and she was pretty funny because I spent, besides the fact that she's 8 feet tall, I spent an entire week working with her, and it was the very end of the 7 days. We were like walking up to this village, and she shared with me that she was a breast cancer survivor, but nobody knows. I'm like, what do you mean nobody knows? She said, well, you know, I didn't have to have chemo, I didn't lose my hair, I didn't lose my breast, I didn't tell anybody, I went and got my radiation, and suddenly I came back to work, and it's like nobody knows. But she said, she goes, I'm scared to death every single day that it's gonna come back. And I said, did you go to a support group? Did you do anything? And so we had this big heart-to-heart, and you know me, I can't turn it off, so I kind of became the healer. And the one thing that she was deathly afraid of was heights. So at the place where we go, and I hope there's no safety officers in the room, this is where we did our medical missions in the Dominican. That's my son Tom at the bottom. That is a nylon rope that I bought because people were trying to climb up on the rocks with the waves. So I thought if I gave them a rope and gave them a good egress, we could like save some lives. And that's Pam at the top. Because after our talk, she decided she wasn't gonna live in fear anymore. She wasn't gonna just sweep it under the rug. She was gonna go for the gusto in life. So not only did she jump and splash and swim, she did it a couple more times, and somebody happened to catch these pictures. So here's the cliff. There's choices. Too many people stay paralyzed on the edge in fear. And it's not just about cancer, it's about any diagnosis. It's about any diagnosis that changes your life. It's about any loss in your life. It's about endings of marriages. It's about endings of jobs. It's about endings of anything. But it's hard to move on sometimes because we're paralyzed. And then there's the deadly free fall, which I hope people don't do, because when you free fall, you basically say, I give up. I can't fix this. I have no control. And you can land on your head. Not a great choice. So my top option, I say get a set of wings and fly. Angels do it. I got my pilot's license so I could fly a little bit more legally. And I also got my pilot's license because when my brother was killed, I had such a sense of deep loss that I didn't take him up on his offer to teach me how to fly. And it wasn't like I needed to get a pilot's license. I needed to do it, number one, to be there for my dad, to help my dad through the process. And I needed to get that connection with his spirit. So I consider patients thrivers. When the cancer's in the past, they realize that none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. Even people who've never had cancer, because we all have adversity in our lives. We all need healing on so many levels. And when we truly begin to live in the moment, it's when you figure it out. And it's about peace in your heart. Because it's not about the cars, the houses, the toys, the stuff. It's about peace in your heart. So my girlfriend Lauren is another one of my sage healing gurus. Lauren was pregnant with Francesca 21 years ago. And she had a seizure while she was pregnant. Got brought to the emergency room. Her partners read her MRI and they go, oh, you've had a stroke. Well, Lauren is a brain MRI guru. And she picks up her MRI, she goes, I have a brain tumor, what is wrong with you people? Her partners didn't want to see what they didn't want to see. And so Lauren had this brain tumor, and she had a biopsy. First she delivered Francesca, then she had a biopsy, and we went to the first surgeon who, because we were doctors, I think he thought he didn't need to have compassion. He goes, well, you've got an oligodendroglioma with leptomeningeal infiltration, you've about 18 months to live. And I was like, you've got about 18 seconds to be your surgeon, you idiot. I was actually taken aback, and I was hoping it was just because we were doctors and he thought, like, why sugarcoat it? But Lauren got a second opinion, thank God. Had a different surgeon who wasn't quite as well known, but who really cared and gave her hope. And she had chemo and radiation, and she had every complication under the sun because she's a doctor. But it's 20 years later. She was the one who introduced me to energy healing, to other forms of integrative medicine. made me go back to church again, made me believe again after having lost my brother, really helped me to get faith again, because there she is. So she's introduced us to so many things that we use with our patients, and it has been an amazing gift. So thriving is about creating a life that you desire to live. We all have that list. Not all of us pay attention to that list. We woulda, coulda, shoulda everything. We always go back and beat ourselves up for all the stuff that we didn't do, but you can't go back and fix that. You gotta look forward, because that's where the future is. And we all have baggage. Some of us have carry-on, some have a 4-piece set. Everybody's got baggage, but we all have to deal with our baggage. And if we don't deal with our baggage, nobody else is going to. So a lot of times, you gotta let it go. Here's the tough one. I tell this to every single patient in my office, because most women are number 11 on their top 10 list of priorities. The kids, the husband, the grandkids, the job, the friends, the this. And it's like, if you don't put yourself on your top 10 list, nobody else is gonna put you there. You gotta do it. Because if you don't do it, you can't be there to care for other people. And it's a tough one. So this is my favorite. Remember Lindsay Lohan, the milkaholic, and she tried to sue them at the football, during the Super Bowl. At the Super Bowl, they had an ad for Lindsay, the kid in the high chair, the milkaholic. Well, she was being a little self-centered. To me, we all need to learn to be more centered on self, because we don't take that time to listen to the drumbeat of the heart, to be in that moment, to find that space every single day. And it doesn't mean you have to do it for 2 hours. It could be 3 minutes. I have meditations on my phone called quickies. So when I just need to decompress, I go in my office, I shut the door, I don't care if they think I'm on the phone, I hit the button, and I bring myself back to center. Okay, so this is tough, because if your boss is your energy vampire, always a little difficult to get rid of them, but it's not just getting rid of all the energy vampires in your life, it's about learning not to react to the energy vampire. Because that's what a lot of them want, is they want that reaction. And in our office, patients, we have an alert screen, it's called EV. Don't worry, nobody's ever gonna pull this off and sue us. But it's an energy vampire, which means that that person needs extra attention, and they have to get a bigger appointment, because the energy vampire will derail your entire day. So they're at the end of the morning or the end of the afternoon, and I don't let them put 2 of them back to back. Another tough one. A lot of times when we do things that we're not proud of or we're not happy about, we're very slow to apologize, because you feel like anxious or guilty, but the minute you apologize, it's out, it's gone, and then you let it go, because you don't want to hold on to those things. This one was tough for me, forgiveness, because I had to learn to forgive the guy who drove the car drunk that killed my brother. And I realized that until I forgave that person, that guy was living rent-free in my head, because you hold on to the anger. So you forgive, not because what the other person did wasn't wrong, because you gotta get peace. We all have this one. This is a toughie, because I know I have friends, well, when I lose 10 pounds, I'm gonna do this. And you look in the mirror and you see all the things that are wrong with you, instead of all those things that are right. How fabulous we all are. And it is such a tough life lesson to learn to love yourself. My favorite. I love gratitude journals, because when you write down every day what you're grateful for, you welcome more love and gratitude back into your life. And who doesn't need more love? So healing doesn't mean that the damage didn't exist. It just doesn't control your life. It doesn't wake you up in the morning, wake you up from your sleep. Healing is something that we all need. You don't have to have cancer or diabetes or dementia. We all need healing on different levels. All my patients get a pink rose quartz heart. It's funny, I remember the first time the bill came for them, and Marion's like, what's up with the hearts? Like, why are we buying these? And I said, may you never know the importance of this heart. And I used to give pink breast cancer ribbons to my patients. And they would wear them on their lapel, and I said, oh my God, I'm giving my patients like a vector of cancer. But the money went to Avon, and at the time I thought it's a great thing. And then I got clued into the fact that pink rose quartz is a stone of self-love. And that's the lesson, to make yourself the most important person in the world. She doesn't question the purchase of the hearts anymore. So thriving, regardless of whether you have a disease or you have cancer or whether you're a leader, you've got to become centered on yourself. You've got to take care of you. You've got to make yourself the priority in your life. Rid yourself of as many energy vampires as possible. Learn to apologize. Learn to let things go. Forgive. Create that sense of true self-love, exactly who you are at this moment with all of your fabulous flaws and opportunities for improvements. And find gratitude in every day. My other great leader is Dawn. Dawn was my very first pregnant breast cancer patient. 1998. She shows up in my office with a lump. She had found it when she first found out she was pregnant 8 months earlier. And her doctor assumed it was a lactation adenoma because the radiologist read the ultrasound as round and regular. And so when I saw Dawn and diagnosed her with cancer, she delivered her baby, most beautiful day of the year, April 7th. The next day was the worst day of my practicing career at that point, because I had to tell a brand new mom that she had metastatic cancer. And ripped my heart to shreds. And this beautiful woman, this was an event from the Red Cross that she got to come to and attend because her mother-in-law got a DVT and couldn't, or had a pulmonary embolism and couldn't come. So Dawn came to this event, and 1 week later, she was no longer with us. She died a week before her baby's first birthday. And it was obviously a very traumatic time for myself, my office, my colleagues. And the night before her funeral, in a dream, as clear as Anna's sitting across from me, Dawn was in my bedroom, and she said, "You didn't fail me. You were there for me. You were there when I was going through chemo. You were there when the chemo failed. You were there for my family, and what you do for patients on their journey is what really matters. It's not just the surgery." So we all get perspective. Because of Dawn, I stopped doing general surgery and limited my practice against everybody else's advice. You'll never do it, you're gonna be poor, you won't be able to afford steak, you'll be eating hamburgers. I'm like, I like hamburgers, it's okay. The general surgeons at the time said, it's like professional suicide to do that. And I go, patients need more than an operation. They don't just need what we do in the OR. I started to take better care of myself up until the time that the hospital closed in Bensalem when I was totally stressed out, but we all learn from those experiences. But creating those priorities in your life and putting yourself in the top 10 list really matters. And you gotta find your passion. And the one thing that I'm so passionate about is how we care for patients. Because we have a purpose. The purpose isn't just to get them in the door of the hospital. It's to get them back home, in their recliner, with their foot up, somebody recognizing that there's something more than just treating a disease. And that's what makes a difference. And we all have perseverance because we all have challenges, every single one of us, every single day. So there's a new way to be on the cliff. And so for my patients, when I see them sitting on the cliff, being at peace, listening to the drum, hearing that heartbeat of God and their divine, I know that my job or my opportunity to get them there has made a difference. That's me. I know it wasn't dangerous, I swear. So when my patients don't have cancer, it's a really great gift because they come back to the office, and this is one of the reasons why I'm a Redeemer and not Fox Chase, because Fox Chase didn't want us, Catherine, Stacy, and I, to do biopsies because it was not necessary for us to see patients with benign disease. I was like, yeah, that's not gonna work for me. Because when a patient goes through a breast biopsy, and you get the opportunity to tell them they don't have cancer, I can say to them, God just gave you a whisper. And so today, this is your whisper. Because the scream of cancer typically wakes people up. The scream of a chronic disease wakes people up. The scream of the loss of a child wakes people up. The scream of addiction wakes people up. But it's the whispers that really matter, because when patients come to my office and I say, that list of 10 things that you were going to change if you had cancer, why would you wait to get cancer to change those 10 things? And I had a benign breast biopsy when I was 47, and I know that list very well. Boom, boom, boom. And you do change it, and you do make those differences. So this is the road of life, and it's the journey that brings us happiness. It's not the destination. It's not retirement. It's not that place that you're going to go. It's those moments in life that take your breath away, not the numbers of moments in life that you actually live. It's those moments that you remember. It's those relationships that you create. It's the experiences. And it's the experiences that our patients get here that makes the difference. So I always tell my young breast fellows when they come rotating through that just because we can't cure everyone of their disease does not make us failures as physicians, nurses, or healthcare workers. It makes us human beings having the most spiritual experience that there is. Because we are spiritual beings here feeling that pain of not being able to, we can't cure everybody that comes in our door. But when we help them release fear, when we help them choose love, and we help them really find healing, we're following the mission. So this holiday season, find peace in your heart. Make your list, check it twice, change the things you can, change how you react to the stress, and I'm just gonna stop before I cry.